Good morning, I'm Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the minister here at First UU. And in spite of all of the struggles we've had this morning, I am excited to be in this place with you because we just keep getting closer and closer to figuring out how to do this. And so I want to say to you this morning that there is ample opportunity for anyone who has the ability to push buttons and type things to help out with the process that is hybrid worship. You would be amazed at the number of switches and moves and all of the things that have to happen for me to speak to you in this place and for the people who are on Zoom to hear it where they are. And it's a whole new adventure every time because you can practice all the things. And as you know, with electronics, in the moment, it will still not do the thing that you intended for it to do. And so, if you are interested in helping with that process and you're feeling adventurous, we will be doing a training soon to get lots of people trained up to do the things that are happening, the magic that's happening over there right now. What?
I said good luck.
Oh, yeah, good luck. So today we celebrate Ostara, or the pagan celebration of the spring equinox. And that has me thinking a lot about balance and renewal. Starhawk, a self-described voice in modern earth-based spirituality and ecofeminism, writes in The Spiral Dance about the sabbats, or the 8 points in the year at which we connect, the inner and outer cycles. She writes that this is where the seasonal, the celestial, the communal, the creative, and the personal all meet. She goes on to say that as the season changes, we arouse power from within, the power to heal, the power to change our society, and the power to renew the earth. All of those things, it seems to me, are things that are deeply needed in this time. And while there will always be forces working to maintain the status quo, I am inspired by the abundant energy that exists in so many people and places to harness our power to make change and to bring renewal together. Poet, hip-hop artist, and now author Joe Davis wrote in his poem, "We Rise Higher Together," I am not a self-taught artist. I am a community-taught artist. I am not an independent artist. I'm an interdependent artist. I am because we are. Everything I am is because someone cared enough about me. I was loved into existence. I am convinced that healing is meant to be communal and abundance is meant to be shared. We shine brighter when we all shine together. We rise only as high as we lift each other. I've been thinking a lot about the words Colleen shared last week in her inspiring message about regenerative and subversive gardening. There is much in our world, both in the soil and in our society, that aches for regeneration and needs an infusion of subversive action. And with those words rolling around in my head, I spent a few days in Tulsa this week, partially trying to reconnect with my doctoral project so I can get it finished, and partially to attend the Disciples of Christ Historical Society conference entitled Visions of Wholeness, Systemic Racism, Anti-Racism, and Reconciliation in Our Shared History and Tradition. Both of these things were painful, and both of them were necessary. Sometimes in my life, I go from thing to thing to thing, and I don't stop to notice the things in between, and I know that I'm missing important and beautiful things when I don't get the chance to slow down and to notice and appreciate the people around me and the places I go. But this week, in the spirit of spring break, I decided to build in a buffer, some time to decompress, and time to transition from one thing to the next with intention and attention. So when I got to Tulsa, I went straight to the fabulous new Riverside Park that they called the Gathering Place. And I say new, but the park actually opened in 2018, which is also when I finished the coursework portion of my Doctor of Ministry degree and stopped spending 4 weeks of my year in Tulsa. So it felt new. So this past Wednesday was my first visit. It's such a fabulous and welcoming space that encourages people, as the name suggests, to gather. It was wonderful to see all the different kinds of people playing basketball, skateboarding, fishing, biking, walking, picnicking, and more. Just the space itself feels like a reclaiming and a renewal of something much needed in Tulsa, a city where some are doing incredibly hard work of acknowledging and healing what the New York Times has called a legacy of segregation, where many neighborhoods grapple with poverty, health disparities, and the isolating effects of urban renewal. I spent some time standing in the riverbed of the Arkansas River. Rivers are holy places for me. And I just looked up at the flow of traffic on the trails and the diverse groups of people gathered in different areas and felt a renewal in my own spirit watching it. I was so renewed, in fact, that I temporarily lost my mind and hopped on a rental scooter and rode the length of the trails both ways to the ends of the park at top speed, which is, by the way, 15 miles per hour, trying to see as much of the park as I could before my rental time ran out. I'm pleased to point out that I emerged from that slightly precarious activity unscathed, and I'm here today to tell the story. There were a few times when a ball rolled across the trail in front of me or a child ran out unexpected when I wondered if that would be the case. Later that day, I visited the Woody Guthrie Center and had dinner on a downtown patio with a friend. If I'm honest, I have to say that none of that was a part of my original plan when I decided to go to Tulsa this week. My plan was productivity centered, but something in my spirit was tugging at me in another direction. Whether you understand that kind of leading as intuition, goddess, gods, God, or even an energetic force, I'm guessing that we all experience it. And I'm also guessing that most of us are pretty well versed at shutting it out and moving forward with our best laid plans. Quite frankly, I'm glad I followed the urge, because as it turns out, the mental work on my project and the emotional labor of that conference took more out of me than I had in me when I left Springfield Wednesday morning. You see, the conference visions of wholeness, systemic racism, anti-racism, and reconciliation in our shared history and tradition was a bold, intentional effort by a lot of people to come together to practice both truth-telling and listening. The speakers were scholars, preachers, professors, and more who came and told complex and heartbreaking stories about our shared history and our shared heroes, Indigenous, Latina, Black, Asian, Pacific Islander. Each speaker shared moments in our shared history from their perspective, and it was hard to hear. Now, this conference was for a Christian denomination that, even though is one of the more liberal and has been on the right side of many of the social issues of our history, also has a significant history of exclusion, racism, and systems built on white supremacy. Unless you say, well, of course, that's what those Christians did. It's our history too. And in many ways, our present reality as well. We have a shared history with truths that need to be told, stories that need to be shared, and pain and suffering that needs to be acknowledged. And this truth-telling and listening can only happen in community. On Friday, as I heard a story after story that confirmed things about my church that I already knew, but hadn't yet been confronted with the specifics quite so directly, I felt sick. And a part of me wanted to just shrink down to nothing. But another part of me looked at the person on my right and the person on my left and in front of me and behind me, and I took comfort in knowing that we were all there together. doing the hard work of learning and healing, and committing to knowing things that we can't unknow, and looking each other in the eyes as if to say, let's hold this together. We can do this. And we can do this. We can do the hard work of acknowledging white supremacy in our midst and rooting it out. One action, one policy change, one reparation at a time. We can do the hard work of relearning what we thought we knew about gender and sexuality and making room for new expressions that are outside of our previous understandings. We can do the hard work of regenerating our soil and caring for our damaged planet. We can do the hard work of creating economic systems that work for everyone. We can do the hard work of lifting the voices and the experiences of our elders to teach the younger generations, and also lifting the voices and experiences of our younger generation to teach our elders. Because that's what it takes for us to learn from each other. And I hope that if you are one of those younger people and you hear my voice, you hear me say that the older generation who has experiences in anti-racism and liberation work have things to teach us, but also, if you are one of those in the older generation, to remember when you were 20 and 30, and there were people who were a couple generations beyond you that didn't think they had anything to learn from you. We can do the hard work of being a people of liberation together. We can do the hard work of examining our spaces and our practices to determine where and how we are excluding people with disabilities and differing abilities. And this by no means is an exhaustive list of the work that is before us. But there is great hope and power in our intention and our willingness to do the work together. And maybe today, we start by simply putting our hands in the dirt together. Whether that's literally or figuratively, as we kick off our subversive gardening plot to make sure that everyone who is willing to grow something for the health of our planet and the health of their family has the means, the knowledge, and the accompaniment to do it, and do it well. So today we put our hands in the dirt together and we begin to regenerate our soil and the soil of our lives. And who knows then what systems we'll be subverting next as we work together to eliminate barriers and to step into opportunity together. The need to move through this world and to make it a better place, to make our community a better place, is a part of who we are. And it seems that some of our transcendentalist ancestors in the faith understood seasons of solitude and community in powerful ways. It's been said that Henry David Thoreau's Walden was the ultimate social distancing. But even in the midst of that solitude, Thoreau understands the need for community. In an article entitled Thoreau and the Search for a Cosmic Community, Laura Walls writes, "By the time Thoreau built his house on Walden Pond at the edge of town, he had come of age among a circle of radical intellectuals called transcendentalists, for their belief in the higher ideals that transcended daily life. Emerson was their leader. He had moved to Concord while Thoreau was at Harvard, class of 37. Back home, Thoreau found his new neighbor declaring America's intellectual independence, even as his own household had become a hotbed of anti-slavery activism. Thoreau joined the new revolution, but by 1844, he was less certain that Emerson, now his mentor, had all the answers. The dilemma that pressed upon him was how to live the American Revolution not as dead history, but as a living experience that could overturn and keep overturning hidebound convention and comfortable habits. The difficult things in this world, and specifically in this country, that we need to face are not matters of dead history, but continued lived experience. So we share Thoreau's dilemma to pay attention, to learn and to act in ways that overturn and keep overturning hidebound convention and comfortable habits. Starhawk writes in The Spiral Dance, if we accept the responsibility of claiming the future for life, then we must engage in the demanding task of recreating culture. A deep and profound change is needed in our attitude toward the world and the life in it, toward each other, and in our conceptions of what is human. Recreating, renewing, regenerating, rebuilding, relearning, recommitting. This is the work that surrounds us. It is the work that beckons us. And it is the work that binds us together in beloved community. What part of that is yours to do right now? And who is around you that is called to the same work? With whom can you be in community in the work to heal the world? So much is possible. When we join together to do the work, we can learn from one another and support one another when things get hard. We can share the joy of small victories. We can lift each other up when our companions on the way get weary. Joe Davis, whose beautiful spirit and words I invoked at the beginning of this message, puts it simply in his poem, turned song, turned album, turned movement. You can buy hoodies with the name, Show Up. He writes, without you, I'm incomplete. Without you, there is no we. I need you not just to survive, but to thrive, to become fully awake and alive with potential and possibility. I need you to show up. And it's a long poem, so I won't read the whole thing, but near the end, he says, wake up, partner up, study up, listen up, keep up, read up, look up, don't give up, and most importantly, show up. Because friends, what we are renewing here is our faith, our church, our community, our planet. And with every person who steps into the circle, what we mean by our expands. And for too long, we've tried to go it alone. We've tried to do it with the tools we already knew how to use. We've tried to do it with the people who were already gathered around us. And it's not enough. So let's commit now to showing up and doing the work together, the work of our own spiritual formation and the work of liberation in the world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.